What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we are checking out the brand new EVH 5150 iconic EL34. Let's do it. Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle. Welcome to Belligerent Studios. What I do here is I take all sorts of awesome high gain related guitar equipment, I record it with a simple SM57 setup, and I give you the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into E-standard thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes that are addicted to chicken tenders, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on the way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks! Hey guys. Editing Kyle here. I'm currently working on the EVH 5150 iconic EL34 video, and I wanted to pop in and say, you are definitely going to notice some crunchiness to the low end on the audio in this video, and that is simply because the low end was so extreme, it was so punchy the way that I had it dialed in. It was actually overloading the microphone and the preamp. It wasn't clipping, but it was like literally more bass than the microphone could capture, I guess would be the best way to put it. So if you're hearing things, you know, thinking that maybe the amp sounds, the low end sounds a little bit crunchy, a little bit compressed. In person, it does not sound like that. It is just, there was so much low end that the mic just simply couldn't capture it. Now I know for next time, but in the room, it sounded really, really good. So figured a lot of people would be saying something about that, and I wanted to make it clear that's not how it sounded in the room. So I'm gonna make some follow-up videos on this amplifier, comparing it to some other amps, and I will be sure to be cognizant of that. So without further ado, back to the video. All right guys, so today is an incredible day because today we are checking out the EVH 5150 iconic EL34 amplifier. Those of you who know me, who have been around this channel for a minute, know that I am an absolute nutcase. That's the end of that sentence. But I'm also a massive fan of the 5150 series. It does not matter if it's PV, does not matter if it's EVH, it doesn't matter if it's a combo or a head or a hybrid style amplifier, which is what the iconic is. If there is a 5150 logo plastered somewhere on this amplifier, I can pretty much guarantee that I'm going to be a fan. Now, if you guys remember when the original iconic launched about 3 years ago, there was all sorts of internet fanfare around that amplifier. It created a very polarizing environment in high-gain guitar amplifier communities for reasons that I'm still not 100% sure of. There were reasonable, level-headed, and rational people out there who said,
hey, a more affordable version of a 5150 amplifier made by EVH that's trying some new stuff in the preamp when it comes to solid-state componentry mixed in with tube gain stages.
I forgot where I started that sentence, to be honest, but they thought it was a good thing. There were definitely people who were on board right from the jump, myself included, But on the other side, there were people who were ready to go down to their local Guitar Center and set the place on fire because they were so angry that a 5150 amplifier was being released with cheap solid-state componentry in the preamp. The 5150-6505 series has always been an all-tube design. That is how our Lord and Savior James Brown and Eddie Van Halen meant it to be from the start. And if there is one thing that we know about time, 30 years have passed since the 5150 was released, and time changes absolutely nothing. So when I caught wind via the interwebs that EVH had been working on an EL34 version of the Iconic behind the scenes, and it was basically set to release right when I heard about it, I was actually very, very surprised at the lack of fanfare or hater fare around the amplifier. Nobody really seemed to be talking about the amp. I actually filmed an emergency video, because with everything crazy going on in the world right now, we absolutely needed another talking head video about an amplifier that hadn't been released yet. But I posted that video and was kind of expecting a lot of other videos to follow, and there weren't. I've only seen 2 other videos pop up since then, and I'll link those down below if you guys want to hear more about the EL34 Iconic. But yeah, I have seen very little in the guitar forums. I have seen very little in the Facebook groups about this amplifier, and I gotta say, I find that really, really surprising. But that does not make me any less excited about this amp. And as soon as I saw that Sweetwater had one in stock, I called them, I begged them, I pleaded with Josh over at Sweetwater to send me one of these things. I even offered to send him my full stash of foot picks. And I think that that's what pushed him over the edge in order to send one of these amplifiers to me next day, early AM, nonetheless. So this amplifier was ordered yesterday at 4:30 p.m. Sweetwater had it on my door at 8:30 a.m. this morning. That is incredible customer service. But with all that being said, you guys should know this is a sponsored video. Sweetwater has sent this amp out to me, and they are paying me to share this with you guys here on the channel. So feel free to take everything that I have to say with a massive grain of salt. You're more than fair to do so, but just keep in mind, I'm gonna give you my honest thoughts and opinions, as I always do. And if you remember my honest thoughts and opinions from the original Iconic video that I posted when that amp launched, I absolutely loved that thing. I thought it was an incredible value. I thought it did some really cool things that other 5150s didn't, but it still remained very firmly in that 5150 family of amplifiers. It definitely didn't do anything too differently that you wouldn't consider it a 5150. The main differences are that solid state topology in the preamp. Replacing the input and replacing the phase inverter is basically what happened. All of the tube gain stages are still tube. It would make sense that tube gain stages are tube, I think. But yeah, the Iconic gets all of its gain from the actual 2 preamp tubes that come in these amplifiers, and James Brown works some wizardry into the other parts of the preamp, like I mentioned. And what that gave us not only was a more affordable amplifier, but it also gave us an amp that is incredibly tight, incredibly punchy on the way in. I'm a huge fan of the way that the low end on this amplifier reacts, or the 6L6 should I say, but I can tell you that the EL34 has all of the goodness of the 6L6, but there are actually a couple of tweaks to this amplifier in order to give us a little bit different of a voicing, a little bit different experience than the regular 6L6 5150 Iconic. Other than the componentry that has been changed in the power section to facilitate the EL34 tubes, I was actually able to speak to James Brown, the man who designed this amplifier, and ask him if there are any differences in the voicing of the preamp, and he said yes, there are a couple slight modifications in the preamp of the EL34 5150 Iconic that give it a slightly warmer voicing. He said it's nothing crazy, but it is there. I can honestly tell you, my first couple hours, because I have been playing this amplifier nonstop today, I'm really, really loving it, and I think you're gonna see that. But the amp seems a little bit more balanced to me, especially in the top end. Some of the complaints about the original 5150 Iconic were that it was a little too bright, that presence came on fast. If you dialed it anywhere over 4 on the presence control, it would start to get really, really bright, so you really had to make sure that you left that presence under 11 o'clock. And on this amplifier, though it is still on the bright side, as most 5150s tend to be, I'm actually able to balance out that high end a little bit more between the high control and the presence. That is a welcome change, and I'm also feeling that this amplifier has more pronounced mids, a little bit rounder mids. The original 5150 Iconic was a little bit scoopy in the mids. It kind of took out that legendary 5150 signature cocked wah thing that you hear in pretty much every other 5150 amplifier. It kind of removed that a little bit and gave you a little bit smoother midsection than you would be used to hearing from the other 5150s. In this amplifier, it still doesn't have that cocked wah thing back, but the mids seem to be a little bit broader, and honestly, I haven't compared them directly, though I will make a separate video comparing them directly. If you guys would like that, let me know down below in the comments. But overall, the mids just seem a little bit more full, a little more forward, and a little more balance on this amplifier. And yeah, I am a massive fan. I have been talking way too much though. Let's go ahead and dive into the tones that this amplifier is able to create. For that intro clip, I was using my Epiphone 1979 Adam Jones Les Paul signature guitar. This has a Seymour Duncan distortion in the bridge. The 5150 Iconic is going into my 1999 Mesa traditional cab. We've got an SM57 on the stock V30 in that Mesa cabinet, and we were boosting the amplifier with a Boss SD1. There will be no post-processing on any of the audio that you guys hear in this video. On top of this guitar, we've got a bunch of guitars that we are going to plug into this amplifier. We're gonna try it unboosted, of course, and we're really just gonna see what type of tones that we can get out of this thing. So real quick, just to show you or remind you how that intro tone sounded, I'm going to click this thing back on. We are on the gain 2 channel. The burn is not engaged and it is dialed in, as you guys see here on your screen. All right, so really well balanced, really good sounding. The low end on this amp is insanely punchy, like super percussive. I am a huge fan of that. We're turning off the Boss SD1 though. Here is straight into the amplifier. So as you can see, pretty noticeable difference with no overdrive. It took out some of that top end brightness. So let's add some presence. Let's pull back the lows just a little bit. Let's add a little bit more high, and let's bump that gain up to just above 5. All right, so it sounds super punchy, very, very balanced, going straight into the amp with no boost. Let's go ahead and engage the burn switch. The burn switch adds a little bit more low-mid fatness, and it adds a little bit more gain to the preamp of this amplifier. And when James Brown designed this, he had envisioned this switch basically kind of kicking the amp more into the original 5150 block letter territory. So as you can see, it definitely adds a little bit more compression, a little more saturation. It thickens up the tone just a little bit. Finally, going back over to channel 1, this channel is definitely still very much capable of some high gain tones. So here we are going straight in as it is dialed on your channel or something. All right, so channel 1 honestly sounds really, really good. It's more open, it's less compressed, and a little bit more open in the top end frequencies. All 3 settings sound incredible. As far as other features, this does have a foot switchable boost that not only increases the volume when you kick it in, but it also gives the amp a little bit more of a signal boost as well. So it kind of has a dual function. So if you're using that to kick it in for a lead, you'll get more saturation, you'll get more thickness and more volume. Really cool feature. And then other than that, we've got a full and a 1/4 power switch over here. But yeah, diving more into the tones, we're gonna stay on this channel. We're gonna see if this thing responds well to lower output pickups, trying to get more of a crunch tone out of it, because that's exactly what everybody buys a 5150 for. All right, guys, I have my PRS SE McCarty 594 here. This has the stock 5815 LTS pickup, I believe. It's basically their take on a PAF style pickup. The amp is dialed in as you see on your screen. right, so really good crunch tones actually. When I think of the 5150, I do not think of great crunch tones. This actually sounds really good to my ears. It's open, it's got that chiminess on the top end. It's got more than enough saturation. If we wanted to dial it back, we could even get it to clean up quite a bit. So that is the crunchy stuff, and that's all we need to hear that weak loser music. Let's go ahead, let's dime the gain. Alright, so even with low output pickups, we are getting really close to the high gain territory, but let's kick on a boost and see if we can get this thing really into true metal territory. We are kicking in the Earthquaker Devices plumes, and a quick reminder, all the guitars and all of the pedals that you guys will see in this video on top of the 5150 Iconic are available at Sweetwater, and if you want to help the channel, use my affiliate link if you decide to head on over there and get something nice for yourself. Thanks! Alright, so very easy to get all the gain that you need out of this thing just by boosting the green channel, but let's see if we can go with low output pickups into the red channel and get away without using a boost for high gain tones. The amp is dialed in as you see here, and the burn switch is not engaged. So it does sound good. It is lacking a little bit of saturation for my personal taste, but it is very tight, very punchy. No boost needed to get it very tight. So that's a good thing. Let's go ahead, let's kick on that burn switch. Dude, all right, so even though it is a little bit more muffled in the top end with the burn switch on because we've got some more saturation, we've got some more compression going, it sounds great going straight into the amplifier for the higher gain tones with low output pickups. Let's turn the burn off. Let's kick in a TS9 Tube Screamer, a classic overdrive for a 5150, if I do say so myself. Safe to say that you can accomplish pretty much anything you want with low output pickups on this amplifier. You may need a boost in certain situations, but most people using a 5150 are gonna have an overdrive lying around or part of their rig already, so it passes with flying colors. Now let's move on to active pickups. All right, guys, so I have my Schecter Solo 6 Extreme here with an EMG 81 in the bridge. We are still on channel 2, or the red channel. Burn switch is engaged, and it is dialed in the way you see here. No overdrive in front. Dude, so straight into this amplifier with the EMGs, that is an incredible tone. It's so punchy, dude. This amp is so punchy, it's so percussive here in the room. Like every palm mute I can feel in my chest. It feels incredible. Massive fan of this amplifier, dude. I'm having way too much fun. Can you believe they pay me to do this? Because they shouldn't. Let's move on to a Fishman Fluence Modern Ceramic. So, sounds incredible going straight in with the Fishman Fluence Modern Ceramic. Again, as I mentioned before, I don't know why I'm saying it again. I'm hearing pronounced differences from guitar to guitar. The amp is reacting differently from pickup to pickup. Like, for example, the Fishman Fluence Ceramic definitely feels like it has a softer attack overall compared to the EMG, and definitely when compared to the lower output pickup of the PRS, the amp just responds a little bit different. You've got to dig in differently. And I think that that says volumes about the preamp circuit and what James Brown was able to do with those solid state stages in combination with those preamp tube gain stages to make this feel, to make this respond naturally like a tube amp would. I think he did an incredible job, honestly. One thing I do want to try real quick while we are on these Fishman Fluence, I actually want to try turning off the burn, and let's see if we can get kind of like a scooped Metallica style tone. One thing about the original 6L6 5150 Iconic I noticed is the mid control didn't really do much, honestly. There wasn't a whole lot of sweep on the mid control. Dialing it up didn't really give you a mid boost. It just kind of affected a very narrow frequency. Let's see if it's a little bit more effective on this one by scooping it out. All right, so maybe a little bit, but again, not a huge range. The mid control is not really changing the voicing of the amplifier all that much. Not a bad thing, but if you were hoping to reshape the voicing of the amplifier by playing with the mid control like you can do on a lot of other tube amps, not really gonna be able to do it on this one. But with all of that said, it still sounds really, really good at dialing the mids back and then bumping up the highs to kind of make up for that lost attack and presence. And even though it is not my ideal scooped thrash tone, it definitely does not sound bad by any means. I'm a huge fan of this thing, dude. I'm having way too much fun doing this. Let's go to a drop C guitar. All right, guys, I have my Gibson Les Paul Studio Faded here with the Balaguer Bowbucker in the bridge. We have a Boss SD1 on, and we are back over on the green channel. I have it dialed in, as you guys see here, and we're going for a drop C hardcore tone. Dude, seriously killer dropsy hardcore tone. I think I'm gonna use this the next time out when I play with Taste of Steel, man. This thing is sounding so good. Definitely has a nice guttural thing going on once we start tuning this a little bit lower. Again, green channel, a little bit more open, a little bit less saturated. Let's kick it over to the red channel. All right, guys, so Boss SD1 is still on. We have it dialed in, as you see here on your screen. Alright, so sounded sick there. I started off and it had a little bit less gain than I would have liked, but the gain was literally at 3. 5150, definitely 3 to 4 is where I max out when I have an overdrive and a hot pickup, and this amp is really no exception. So let's go ahead, let's push in that burn control. So a lot more gain, a lot more saturation. It is a little bit on the compressed side though. Let's see if we can get a dropsy hardcore tone out of this thing with no overdrive in front. Turning the boost off, let's get more gain, let's get more high end. We're also gonna need to pull back the lows and the resonance a tad. Let's get just a little bit more presence. Guys, so both channels and the burn setting included as a third setting. All 3 ways of dialing this amplifier in, more than capable of bringing the dropsy hardcore brutality. It could incite the rise of brutality, one might even say. I have a punchable face. All right, let's move on to, last but not least, a 7-string and some very low tune riffs. Guys, so going straight in with the burn engaged in drop B with this Schecter PT Hybrid EMG 57 in the bridge. No problems whatsoever getting some nasty low tune tones out of it. Seriously, man, this thing is way too much fun. Let's turn off the burn switch. Let's kick in a Boss SD1. Dude, Dude, this amplifier has no problem with the low tune tones. It's not farting out, it's not getting money. We are loud here in the room, and it seems like it's still got way more headroom than I am even getting close to on the amp, so I think it'll be fine for tuning low and playing loud. Last but not least, over to channel 1. Dude, I think I might like the green channel even more. It's got a little bit more low-mid thing going on, a little more of a low-mid blow I might want to carve out with the right overdrive, but I love the openness of the mids. The top end is very, very grindy, very cutting. The amplifier sounds so good. Seriously, I had so much fun making this video. I love my job. Seriously, 5150s, always incredible. If you guys liked what you heard, make sure to hit that Sweetwater affiliate link if you plan on picking one up for yourself. They are in stock as of right now, and they are selling for $1,000. And if you guys enjoyed anything else that you heard in this video, the guitars, the Boss SD1, the Ibanez TS9, going down and hitting that affiliate link goes a long, long way in being able to do more stuff like this with you guys here on the channel. And I massively appreciate the support. Let me know what you think about this amplifier. Are you going to buy one for yourself? Did you like the tones I got out of it? Whatever it is, let me know down below in the comments. I'm gonna get out of here, guys. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time.
You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.